Good afternoon, St Gregory's, and welcome to our school press conference, question and answer session with Mrs Blanch. Thank you so much for all of your questions. I'm going to hope that I've just had a quick whiz through them, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to answer them all. So here goes. The first question is from Nathaniel Cook in Mrs Penny and Mrs Williams's class, and Nathaniel wants to know, do you like playing with Lego? Great question, Nathaniel. So I do like playing with Lego now with my children. However, when I was your age and right the way probably up to the age of 11 or 12, Lego was my very favourite thing to play with. And when I was little, you couldn't buy packs of Lego that made specific things. You just had to buy all of the plain bricks. And I loved inventing things. And my favourite thing to build was houses, and I always used to plan out my dream house, and also I used to love making stables because I love horses. So there we go. The next question is from Zara and Kai McHugh in Mrs Penny and Mrs Williams's class and Mrs Spencer's class. How are you going to keep us safe from the coronavirus when we come back to school? Well, I've already started thinking about it, and I've already started working with other Cheltenham head teachers to find out exactly what we're going to do, because we've decided that we're going to try and stick together and we'll make our decisions together so that it looks very similar in all of the schools in Cheltenham. The different things that we're thinking about already is that we may be thinking about not having everybody back all at the same time. We'll look at different year groups so that we can socially distance when we get back to school. But of course, we'll get everybody back as soon as it's safe to do so. We're also thinking about how we do rolling drop-offs so that all of the parents don't have to be in the same place at the same time. And we're thinking about how we stagger our lunch times and break times so that we don't have everybody all in the same place at the same time. And we're also thinking about how we do our assemblies, because that's the time when all 420 children are all together in a very small space. So we're thinking about how we do that. So we've already started all of these thoughts, and when the government asks us to open our schools again, we will be ready to go. Okay, so hopefully that's answered some of those parts of your question. I know there's lots more questions later about what's going to happen when we come back. So Sophie Hindley from Miss Keenan's class wants to know, what is my favourite song? I love music. And I love all different types of music. So if your mummies and daddies saw my CD collections, what they would see is a really big mixture of different things. I like pop music, I like some really soft rock music, I like what we call indie music, I like popular stuff, I like unpopular stuff. So at the moment, the song that I listen to quite a lot is Rocket Man. And that's by a man called Elton John. He's a very famous singer-songwriter. But actually, it depends what mood I'm in. I love loads of different types of songs. The next question is from Jacob and Damien in Mr Hollick and Miss Keenan's classes. So lots of questions from them. How many children are going to school during lockdown? At the moment, today, we've got 21 children in school. Last week we had 9 children some days, 15 children other days. Just before the Easter break, we had up to 47 in one day. That was the highest number of children that we had. But we're expecting the number to increase steadily now over the next couple of weeks, because we've got lots of news from the government that the key workers are going to be needed to work even harder than they're already working, and a lot of their time off is going to be cancelled. So we're expecting lots more children in school over the coming days and weeks. What have the children who have gone into school been doing during the lockdown? Great question. So they've been doing their homeschooling. We've got one teacher that's allocated to do their homeschooling with them, so they have to do exactly the same as you're doing at home. And then the other thing that they've been doing is they've been doing some exercise. They've had some sports coaches in to work with them, make sure they're healthy. And we've been doing some arts and crafts, much like the same as you've been doing at home. So we've been asking them to keep to the same routine as everybody at home, so that everybody feels that even if they're in different places, actually they're doing the same thing. Who is my favourite Harry Potter character? Again, it depends on my mood. I love Harry Potter because I think it's just so clever the way that it all goes through the different years of school. But probably Hermione Granger, because I love the idea of independent girls and independent ladies, and that's how I've been brought up to be. So I think I see a lot of myself in Hermione, and that's the reason why I really like her. Who is the naughtiest pupil I've ever taught? Wow. I don't really think of behaviour as being naughty. I think of behaviour as being a child or an adult trying to tell me something that's not going so well. So I try and work out what's going on. The behaviour that really annoys me, I suppose, is when I know that a child is capable of doing really well, but they're not putting very much effort into things. And that's what I find really tricky. So that's the thing that annoys me the most. Now, Charlotte and Annabelle Shine want to know, what is my favourite movie? Right. I love Christmas movies, and I don't really watch television very much, and I find it really tricky to sit through a whole movie. I kind of get ants in my pants. So the movie that I love the most is Miracle on 34th Street. It always brings a tear to my eye every time. I just think it's magical. I love Home Alone, and that's the kind of movies that I love. Emily Edwards wants to know, what is my favourite biscuit? I love savoury foods. So although I do eat biscuits, I don't really mind what kind of biscuits. I don't eat lots and lots of biscuits. Probably if I was to have one biscuit, it would be something with chocolate on, maybe a chocolate digestive or something like that. And I'm really rude. I love dunking them in my tea. Ben in Mrs Mackenzie Ford's class wants to know if I've got a favourite food. I love fish and chips, and I also love Chinese takeaways. Absolutely love those. And a good old roast dinner. I love roast dinners. I love nothing more than sitting with the family around the table and eating a yummy roast dinner on a Sunday. Have I got a pet? Yes, I do. I have a pet dog called Bailey. Bailey loves trying to get onto the sofa, and I'm trying to train her not to get onto the sofa because we've just had some new sofas. I'm also trying to train her to go out to walk along the pavement without dragging me. So we're working hard with Bailey at the moment, and of course we've had lots of chance to have to do some very long walks with her, which has been lovely. What is the most beautiful place in the world I've been to? There's a couple of places. I'm very lucky. I have got a family that live in Canada, and they live close to Niagara Falls, and I just think that is the most incredible place to visit. The noise of the waterfall as it comes over the top is just incredible. And the other place that I love being is a place near to Lourdes. Every couple of years I go on pilgrimage to Lourdes in south of France, and it's a very small mountain town called Giovanni. And no matter what the weather is, whether it's hot or cold, if you look behind, you can always see the Pyrenees Mountains, which is where the border is with Spain, and there's always some snow on the top. And there's a little trickling river that goes right the way down the mountain, and it's just beautiful. I love being there. I feel like I'm on top of the world when I'm there. William Hurst wants to know, what is my favourite dinosaur? Because his is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. My favourite dinosaur was the Diplodocus. I love that really, really long neck, and I just think they look really gentle. I'm sure they weren't really gentle. However, I love the look of them. I think they look cuddly and sweet. Finian would like to know, did you always want to be a teacher, or did you want to be anything else? Since I was in year 3, I've always wanted to be a teacher. My teacher then was called Mrs Hatton Snooker, and she was inspirational. I loved going to school. We sang lots, we did dancing, we learnt songs. we didn't do very much English and maths I can remember, but I'm sure that I did because I can read and I can write. So, and I'm sure that she had us doing that too. But she was inspirational, and she really helped me to love the idea of being a teacher. The other thing that I did think of doing when I was a teenager was being a weather reader. So one of the people that is on the end of the news and tells everybody what the weather's going to be, because I love geography and I love anything to do with weather systems and those sorts of things, and I just thought that would be really cool, and I still would love to have a go at doing that. I think I'd love to do that. Lucy Hindley would like to know, what 3 things as our head teacher do you want from us at the moment? This is a really tricky time, isn't it? And I think that children and teachers and parents are finding it tricky because we just don't really know what to expect. So I suppose at the moment, I'd like you to spend some really precious time with your family, lots of snuggles, lots of games, lots of chats about how you're feeling. That would be great. So that's the first thing. The next thing I'd like you to do is to try and keep some sort of routine to your day, because that means that you know what day it is. And sometimes I wake up and I think, oh, what day is it today? But it also means that you can achieve lots in the day, even if it's lots of little things. That's really important, that we understand a sense of purpose at the moment and we keep to some kind of a routine. The other thing that I'd love you to do is, you heard me saying that it's really tricky for everybody at the moment because there's so much uncertainty. So I would love for you to help out your families at home, actually. You could really make life easier for mummies and daddies and grandparents and aunties and uncles if you did a few more jobs around the house and just did what you're asked to do the first time, so they don't have to nag and whinge at you. It's tricky when we all live together all of the time. And so that would be really helpful, and I'd love you to do that because I think it would help your relationships in your family, and so that would be great. Parents, you can blame it on me when you ask them to do something. Quinn would love to know, if I wasn't a teacher, what would I have been? Quinn, I think I answered that question earlier, and so if I wasn't a teacher, I think I would have loved to have been a weather person and telling people what's going to happen with the weather. George in Mrs Cassidy's class would like to know, what is the first thing that I'm going to do after lockdown has been lifted? I'm just going to run around to my mum and dad's house and I'm just going to give them a big hug, because although I've been seeing them through the window and they've been dropping milk and bread to me whilst I've been in isolation for a few days, and we've been doing the same for them, what I found really hard is that I'm a very touchy person. I like to hug people and I like to kiss them when I say hello and goodbye. And I find it really hard that I can see my mum and dad, but I can't do any of that. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do. And then when we're allowed to get into big gatherings, I want to have a big party with all the people I love, all in my house, because we've just moved house. And it'd be lovely for us to show off our house to the people that we love, because we haven't been able to do that yet. Okay, Nyla would like to ask, have I got any tips for home learning? Yeah, I do have some tips. It's not to get into arguments about it with your parents. I've already said it's tricky for parents, so to try and juggle everything and their own work at the moment too. So don't get into arguments and focus in. Decide when each day you're going to do your home learning and spend that time doing it. And the quicker that you put in 100% effort, the better and quicker your work will get done. And parents won't have to nag. So everybody will be smiling at the end of it. So that's what I'd love for you to do. Okay, so have a routine, decide when you're going to do it, and put in 100% effort for that amount of time. That would be great. Alex Toms from Mrs Cassidy's class would like to know, when are we coming back to school, and what's my favourite part of being a head teacher? Okay, I'm going to answer the second bit first. My favourite part of being a head teacher is the good days. The days when children have to bring me the most incredible work and I get to give them a sticker. I'm really missing doing that at the moment. And and get to photocopy their work to put up on my wall in my office so that I can show it off to my visitors that come to visit me in school. And that's the best part of being a head teacher. And when are we coming back to school? I don't know. When you find out, can you tell me? Lots of people want to know this. There's lots of people later who've asked the same question. And the government have said that when it is safe to come back to school, that's when they'll start getting people into school. So we need to be led by the government, and it's important that until we're told to go back to school, that everybody follows the rules that the government have given us. And that is because they're trying to keep us as safe as they possibly can. The things that the government are thinking about is not too many people coming into contact with each other, Alex. So when the death rate starts going down, so when less people are dying of COVID-19, then they'll have to start thinking about, okay, how can we get our country back to what it usually is like? And I think it's going to take quite a while. I think that they'll probably have people coming into school so that parents can go back to work and start earning money and start keeping all of the different businesses going in our society. But I also think that we have to, that even when that happens, things won't all be normal straight away. Okay, I think that we probably won't be able to have big parties. And I think that we probably won't be able to do big fundraising events for a little while until they've got a vaccination, which is when they give you, so sometimes you have a flu vaccination where you can put something, that they squeeze something up your nose to stop you from getting the flu. Sometimes you have to have a little injection. I think that when they find a vaccination, then we'll be able to go back to life as normal as we know it. And I think it's going to be a new normal for a little while now. Lucy Hopkins in Mrs Cassidy's class would like to know, is the lockdown worse in other countries than here? It is. In some countries, they're not even allowed to go out for their exercise each day. Okay, so we're really lucky, and we need to make sure that we just go out for their one lot of exercise and that we don't go out any more than that. We follow the rules that the government have given us, okay, because then hopefully we'll be able to come out of lockdown and get back to school and see our friends a little bit quicker. Marco wants to ask, how did you feel when you had to shut the school, and how do I feel now? I was really sad. I'm going to be really honest with you. When the government had the press briefing and they said that schools would shut on that Friday, I cried. And the reason that I cried is because I worry about you lot when I'm not with you. And I was worried about how parents would manage if we didn't get to see them every day and they had to juggle their own work at home and teaching you. I was worried that we would lose contact with you and all of those sorts of things. So we worked our socks off for 2-3 days to make sure that those worries weren't quite so big. And on the first day that you weren't all in school, I was still worried about you. And now, of course, I'm worried about you and I'm missing you. But actually, because you've been sending work in from today, I'm feeling a little bit more confident about how you're all getting on. And I know it's tricky, but I just need you to know that we're thinking of you. So I feel more positive now than I did, but I was really, really sad the first day. George in Mr Banwell's class would like to know, the very different question here, how many wives did Genghis Khan have? Well, Genghis Khan was a leader in Mongolia, I believe, and I think that he had 6 wives, just like another famous character in history, in British history. I wonder if you can think about who the king was that had 6 wives, and he was a British king, and a king of England. Okay, that's your clue. So everybody, maybe you could research that, and some of you might know straight away. Lexi would like to know when we might be able to come back to school. I have no idea. I find out at exactly the same time as you, but we've already started planning for when we come back. Okay. Angus McKinnon wants to know, when we come back, are things going to be different? They probably will for a little while, Angus, because the government is saying that we're going to have to do things in a phased approach, so everything won't go straight back to normal. So I think that things will be different for a little while. There may be different drop-offs, there might be different lunch times, things, but we will work over the next few months to get things back as normal as possible. And who knows, we might even learn some better ways of doing things because we've had to think outside of the box. Okay. Emily and Raphael would like to know how long this is going to last. I don't know. I have no magic skills to be able to tell that. However, I'm just following the government advice, just like everybody else should be. And is it going to affect us when we finally go back to school? I think I've just answered that one from Angus. It will affect us, but we're going to try and keep you as safe as we can. We have to keep all of the staff as safe as they can be too. And we need to make sure that, that the things we put in place do that. Matthew says, some schools, so he's from Sri Lanka. This is Matthew from Presbury class. I'm from Sri Lanka, and even though it's a very small country, when they found 3 coronavirus infected patients, the president there immediately locked the country down, and they had limited spreading. In the UK, why couldn't they do it at the beginning, and why did they let this spread and thousands of people are now dying? This is a really tricky one, isn't it, Matthew? Because the thing is that we have to be led by our leaders, just like your parents put their trust in me to make sure that the teachers in our school are teaching you the very best way that we know how. I have to put my trust in medics and doctors who are doing all of the research about these things. Now, making decisions as a leader is really, really hard. And we don't know at the moment whether we've done the right thing, the wrong thing, partly the right thing, partly the wrong thing. We just don't know. But we have to trust that there are people who know a lot more about it than we do, giving the advice to our government. And I suppose what I'm saying is that perhaps in Sri Lanka, as soon as they stop the lockdown, they will have lots of cases too. We just don't know. But we do have to do what we're asked to do, because then when we stick together, we're a great team, okay? And it means that we're basically following the rules that we've been given. We just have to trust. And sometimes that's hard to do. I know that. Miriam in Mrs Spencer's class would like to know, we have missed many weeks of learning in the classroom, but we've also missed our friends. When we go back to school, will we be able to spend time playing with our friends, or will we just be doing learning? We've already started thinking about this, and the things that we have been thinking about are that we need to get people used to learning again in the classroom, and we need to go through all of your basic skills with you so that you're ready for the next year group of schoolwork. But we also need to kind of socialise everybody again. We need to work on people's positive mental health. We need to be playing lots of games. We need to build up teams again. It's kind of like starting in a new class all over again, because we'll have each had very different experiences. And although we have missed a few weeks of school, actually, we've only been out of school 4 weeks so far. And 2 of those weeks were Easter holidays. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because it feels like forever. It feels like forever for me too. Now, of course, we know that we're definitely going to be out of school for another 3 weeks, because that's what the government have told us. And then we don't know how quickly we'll be coming back after that. So we're definitely having lots of team building activities, definitely lots of positive mental health activities, and then some learning too. Okay, but you will definitely have lots of time to meet up with your friends and find out what's been going on. And then the last question for today is that Victor in Miss Begum's class wants to know, what do I think of the idea of homeschooling? Now, I think he's asking this because one of the Year 6 tasks today was to find out opinions of homeschooling, because they're writing a balanced argument in Year 6. So, Victor, thank you for waiting right the way to the end of this broadcast. I think, so I can see the two sides of it. I love the flexibility of homeschooling. However, as a parent, I have to tell you that I'm finding it really, really hard. I'm finding it really hard because when I teach children at school, generally they listen because I'm the head teacher. When I teach my own children at home, they see me as mummy. and they don't see me as the head teacher, because I've got kind of two hats on. And it's really unfair to ask children to see me as a teacher when actually I'm at home and therefore I'm their mummy. So they don't always do things to the same standard that I would want them to do if I was in school. And so I think that it's very tricky for parents when they haven't chosen to homeschool their own children. So that's my views on that. There's also something that keeps coming through to us on email. This is for parents, really. Something that keeps coming through is that a lot of people are running out of space in their home learning books. And so can they collect another one from school? That's a good question. But actually, so because of the social distancing rules and isolation rules, we should only really be going out for our exercise each day and for essential reasons. I'm not convinced that collecting an exercise book from school is an essential reason. If you're able to just get some paper from somewhere, or perhaps just buy a very cheap spiral bound book or something like that next time you go shopping. We don't mind what your child is doing their homeschooling on, because actually what we can't do for safety reasons is we can't take all of these things back into school at the end. And that is why we're asking you to take a picture of what they've done and to start sending us the pictures each day. That's so that we have a safe way of being able to capture all of their work without everything being brought in from people's homes, where of course we could be them bringing the virus into school. Okay, so we don't mind what you're recording the work on. But what we would say is that if you can, please just grab something when you next go to the supermarket for your essential shop. If you do find that very, very tricky and it would be too expensive to do that because actually you're struggling right now, just email us and we'll see if we can pop something into the post to you. But I would ask you only to do that if you really, really can't manage that yourself. So that brings us to the end of our press briefing today. We are missing you dreadfully. And we love you lots, all of you. We hope that you're being really good for your parents. This is tricky for everybody. And I hope that you are actually enjoying some downtime too. This is probably a time in history that hopefully, for lots of reasons, we won't get again. But actually, it could be quite a treat as well. There's time with our families. There's more time to watch television. There's some great stuff on the BBC iPlayer now because they've launched some home learning today too. And just try and enjoy the time as much as you can. We are currently making history. Take care, everybody, and we'll have another question and answer session soon. Bye.